Good evening, I'm Stephanie Valle. Thank you for watching ABC-7 Extra. It is Sunday, December 18th. For the next half hour, I'm filling in for Extra host Dylan McKim for a look back over the cases profiled in my Borderline Crimes podcast series this year. 4 suspected murder cases, all at various points in the legal system. I begin with a case from nearly 6 years ago. A man was shot to death outside a bar in East El Paso. Moises Galvan is accused of shooting 22-year-old RJ Franco in 2017. He claims it was self-defense, but Galvan is charged with murder. The first trial ended in a mistrial in 2019, and ever since then, more than 3 years, the quest for justice in this case has been on hold. Now, a Texas state agency is investigating the judge for misconduct during the trial. Here's the story of the long wait for resolution in the death of RJ Franco. This story first aired in January.
All right.
The latest development in this 5-year-old murder case happened just weeks ago. On January 11th, Judge Marcos Lizarraga of the 168th District Court held an emergency hearing. Based on what he said inside the courtroom that day, it's unclear when or even if Moises Galvan will be tried for RJ Franco's murder.
Something happened on December 30th that, in my opinion, could allow Mr. Galvan's lawyers to argue that their client's rights are being violated in a way that could help Moises Galvan walk out of jail without a retrial of this case. On December 30th, I was served with papers by a state agency in Austin that threatens to remove me as judge of the Moises Galvan murder case. They even threatened to remove me as a judge.
The investigation is tied to his handling of this murder case in the courtroom. The crime happened on January 29, 2017. RJ was at Barfly in East El Paso with friends when, according to the police investigation, he and 19-year-old Moises Galvan had an argument that continued into the parking lot. Surveillance video caught the two men leaving the bar. Galvan, in a cream-colored jacket, exits first. RJ, behind him, is in a red sweatshirt. You can see Galvan approach RJ. RJ's friends follow behind, and then shots ring out. There's no audio, but you know something happened because people in the parking lot suddenly begin to run. RJ's dad, Roger Franco, learned about the shooting hours later. His son's friends began calling him.
Roger, you need to get to Barfly because something happened to RJ. My phone kept going off. Some of RJ's friends call me, Roger. RJ's been shot.
Investigators say Galvan admitted to shooting and killing RJ. Galvan said he did it to save his own life because RJ was attacking him. The narrative angers RJ's dad and mom, who say their son was a star athlete at Mottwood High School, where he graduated from in 2013. He was easygoing and had lots of friends. Hundreds attended a candlelight vigil and memorial at Mottwood days after his death.
Very well loved by his teammates, by his coaches, by his teachers. People were just drawn to him.
The trial began 2.5 years after the crime in May 2019 and lasted nearly 4 weeks. But before jurors could deliberate the evidence, the trial fell apart. The defense objected to a question the prosecutor asked Moises Galvan when he took the stand June 1st. The defense said asking Galvan if it was true that he always carried a gun created bias in the jury. The defense asked the judge for a mistrial, and Judge Lizarraga granted the request.
We're there looking at each other and asking each other questions, and it was just, I couldn't understand.
But when it finally was declared a mistrial, it was disappointing. But we hold on to our faith and know that there are bigger plans, bigger than us.
The murder case of Moises Galvan was scheduled for a retrial in August 2019, then pushed to January 28, 2020, the eve of the 3rd anniversary of RJ's death.
but it was delayed again. On top of that, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and the state of Texas halted all jury trials in March of 2020. As for this case, no date has even been proposed for the retrial.
Judge Marcos Lizarraga denies all the allegations. Since this story was originally broadcast in January, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct has begun formal proceedings in adherence to the Texas statute on the removal or retirement of judges. The executive director told me the commission is currently gathering information ahead of scheduling formal proceedings. Meantime, Judge Lizarraga has been removed from the case, and a visiting district judge has been put in place to oversee the retrial. As all this was happening, Moises Galvan had filed a motion to dismiss the charges, claiming a retrial would be double jeopardy. But last month, an appellate court upheld the ruling of the lower trial court, which had denied the motion for dismissal. That retrial still has yet to be scheduled. Before the story initially aired in January, I was in communication with a woman online who identified herself as Moises Galvan's mother. The woman repeatedly asked me to tell the full truth of the incident, and I explained what I was including in the report, including the allegations leveled against Franco during the trial, and I asked the woman to take part in the report. She did not respond to my request. You can hear more details about this case in my Borderline Crimes podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And now to an Army veteran who served in Afghanistan and survived combat overseas, killed in a military-style ambush in East El Paso. 4 men and a woman, some of them former soldiers, are accused of killing Tyler Croak. But since the deadly attack on May 7th, 2017, only 2 of the suspects have been sentenced here at the county courthouse downtown. I have extra perspective on the case and the delays.
On May 7th, 2017, 23-year-old Tyler Croak was found dead in an apartment complex on Loma Land. Croak was an Army vet who had been assigned to Fort Bliss since returning from Afghanistan in 2014. He was a brother and a father himself. 2 weeks after Croak was killed, police arrested Tristan Chilton, Stephanie Fernandez, Brandon Olson, Zachary Johnston, and Adam Acosta. Chilton and Fernandez, who were dating, told police what happened to Croak. Fernandez says Croak was dealing drugs. Olson, Johnston, and Acosta were looking for him, saying he owed them a tax. They organized a tactical ambush. Fernandez would drive the getaway car for the 4 attackers. The guys, armed with guns and knives, burst into the apartment where Croak was staying, pulled him out of the shower, and demanded his drugs. During a brawl, police say they stabbed him to death.
So that's just a nightmare in itself. Just learning the way that he died.
Tyler Croak's mom, Kirsten Croak, got a call from El Paso police about her oldest son's death.
You have to be evil, and people like that are just irredeemable. There was no reason for them to take his life the way they did. They were going there to look for drugs. They barely found anything. It was minuscule. And then they decided to kill him.
The family knew Tyler had been using drugs. The Croaks think he was trying to treat pain and PTSD, though he was never officially diagnosed.
Well, I've seen comments, oh, just another wash up and stuff, which he wasn't. But even if he was, that doesn't mean that he's asking to be murdered.
Stephanie Fernandez and Zachary Johnston were both convicted and sentenced to life in prison. But 5 years after Croak's murder, 3 suspects are still in jail awaiting trial: Adam Acosta, Tristan Chilton, and Brandon Olson. Their cases are in the 168th District Court presided by Judge Marcos Lizarraga. Judge Lizarraga is currently defending himself from allegations of misconduct in another murder trial. Among the complaints, the judge was accused of showing bias to the defense. Lizarraga denies all the allegations. The State Commission on Judicial Conduct is investigating. And now, a new concern for the Croaks. Judge Lizarraga retained El Paso defense attorney Jim Darnell to defend him. Darnell is also Brandon Olson's court-appointed lawyer.
It's unethical. I don't know how he could be impartial if that attorney were to continue on defending that defendant. It makes no sense to me.
Well, and it's also, I feel like, unethical to even think that we have to sit here and worry about not making the judge upset.
We feel victimized all over again.
Kirsten Croak filed a complaint with the State Bar of Texas. I reached out to Jim Darnell.
Well, that would be up to the district attorney's office to decide if they want to raise something.
Croak worries about anything impeding justice for her son.
I think it's time that he should probably step aside when there's been so many issues. We certainly don't want to upset him if he does continue on and handles Ty's case, but we want to make sure that we have an impartial judge.
There's so much more to this case, including another issue troubling the Croak family related to the district attorney's office. I examine it all in the latest episode of my podcast, Borderline Crimes. Subscribe, download, and listen wherever you get your podcasts and on KVIA.com. Stephanie Valle, ABC-7. We have an update since this story first aired. As we reported in October, this case against Tristan Chilton is delayed. The assistant district attorney handling the case asked for a continuance because he was resigning from the office, and a new assistant district attorney would be assigned to prosecute the case. The judge ruled to postpone the trial, which had been scheduled for October 13th. It has not yet been rescheduled, according to the court docket. It's not clear whether the prosecution's handling of the case will be affected with the change of command in the district attorney's office, which officially happened on Wednesday with the appointment of Bill D. Hicks. After the break, a look at a case that riveted the borderland. A missing mother, a man charged with murder despite her body not being found. You're watching ABC-7 Extra.
Discover natural diamond jewelry at Susan Eisenfine Jewelry.
Do you know anyone who has seizures? Advanced Neurology, Epilepsy, and Sleep Center is the only certified epilepsy center in a 250-mile radius that offers the most accurate, cutting-edge technology necessary to diagnose these symptoms. We are led by Dr. Amar Harakar and his practitioners, and they will care for you in a comfortable and professional environment. If you or a loved one is suffering from seizures, please call Advanced Neurology, Epilepsy, and Sleep Center today. You deserve to live a normal life. Call now.
At Chevy, the holidays mean going places and doing things you love to do with friends and family. Visit your local Chevy dealer, and when you find your red tag, you find your deal. Then make the most of your time with the people who matter most. Find new moments, find new roads. Find your red tag and get $2,500 total cash allowance on all 2022 Silverado pickups with a 2.7-liter turbo engine. New models are arriving daily. Secure yours today. Chevy drives Texas. Find new roads.
News doesn't stop on weekends, and at ABC-7 neither do we. Start your day with Good Morning El Paso Weekend, the area's only weekend morning newscast at 6 and 8 a.m. Accurate, reliable storm track weather to plan your outdoor activities and keep your family safe. Then get complete coverage of breaking news in the evenings, plus an in-depth discussion of major stories that affect you every Sunday night at 10:35 on ABC-7 Extra. ABC-7, where news comes first, 7 days a week.
They say people, like natural diamonds, form over time. When the time is right, you too will continue a legacy. Only natural diamonds to treasure, now and forever. Discover natural diamond jewelry at Susan Eisenfine Jewelry.
Thank you for watching ABC-7 Extra. I'm Stephanie Valle, and tonight I'm revisiting the cases I profiled in my Borderline Crimes podcast series in the past year. Here's the next case, which spanned over 3 years and was just resolved in the summer. Extra depth on the disappearance of Erica Gaitan in this episode of Borderland Crimes. The 29-year-old El Paso mother attended a concert here at the County Coliseum on Saturday, July 13th, 2019, and she hasn't been seen or heard from since. More than 3 years have passed without any indication of where she could be. Her family believes she's dead, and El Paso police say even without her body, they know who killed her.
This is the last picture of Erica Gaitan. She snapped this photo of herself dressed all in white while headed inside the El Paso County Coliseum. She posted it on social media that night, not knowing this picture would be used in a massive effort to find her. Gaitan was supposed to go to a house party after the concert that night, but her friends said she never showed up. Sunday, Gaitan didn't answer any text messages or phone calls, including from the father of her child, asking what time he could drop off her son with her the following day. By Monday, her family was concerned.
My sister called me because she was taking care of Erica's son, and she said she didn't come back on Sunday. I've been calling her, no answer. And she has not been posting photos on Facebook or anything like that, and she was often on social media.
They took their search to social media and to local news.
It's a story that's been shared all over social media. Now, within the last 24 hours, police are asking for your help. A missing mom could be in danger.
Now, take a look at your screen. This is 29-year-old Erica Gaitan.
ABC-7's first report on Gaitan's disappearance was on July 19th.
She supposedly took an Uber home. We got a last call from her at 1:30 for her just to disappear and not come home like that. It's not of her.
Guadalupe Gaitan says she is constantly trying to correct the narrative about what happened to her daughter. She says comments posted online question whether Gaitan left on her own to start a new life. Her mother insists Gaitan's disappearance was against her will.
El Padre, el Hijo, y el Espíritu Santo. Amen.
These videos and pictures of Erica Gaitan and her son together are symbols of her devotion to her son, who's now 10.
I explained to the police that I felt that she was in danger or dead because she was always on social media, but there was no sign of her phone, and she always asked about her son. We got together, a group of close family and friends, and we went to the neighborhoods to look for her in Red Sands.
While Gaitan's family searched Red Sands, detectives searched the home and vehicle of the man last seen with her, Ricardo Marquez. Marquez and Gaitan went to the concert together at the Coliseum. He had told everyone that Gaitan went home from his house after an argument, but his story had holes. Police found physical evidence in his room at his house and in not just one, but 2 vehicles that tied Marquez to Gaitan's disappearance. Police arrested 28-year-old Ricardo Marquez.
Well, you say there's evidence, but I don't know what you're talking about. You're the expert.
What we found in that Jeep is the reason you're here, handcuffed in this office.
Now, investigators believe Gaitan's remains are here at Red Sands. What investigators found that led them to believe that Marquez was responsible for Gaitan's disappearance and death? What Marquez told investigators when he was arrested months after she vanished, and why a jury was convinced that Marquez is a killer. All of that in the disappearance and death of Erica Gaitan in this latest episode of ABC-7's Borderland Crimes. Find it now wherever you listen to podcasts and on kvia.com. Stephanie Valle, ABC-7. Since this report aired in August, Ricardo Marquez filed a motion seeking a new trial, but Judge Sam Medrano denied the request. Marquez is appealing his conviction and filed a motion with the 8th Court of Appeals. In a motion filed by his attorneys in July, Marquez is asking the appellate court to consider his request for a new trial based on 2 points. He claims there was insufficient evidence to prove he intentionally and knowingly killed Gaitan, and there were improper deliberations by the jury, according to him. Marquez says the jury used information that was not presented in the trial as evidence in their deliberations. The district attorney's office has not yet filed a response to the motion. We'll be right back with a case that sent a neighborhood reeling as a shooter who killed an attorney in her home went on the lam for almost a year. You're watching ABC-7 Extra.
Tis the season to save at Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso. With our best inventory in years, we're fully stocked with the vehicles you want with offers you'll love. Like 2023 Elantras and Sonatas, fully stocked. 2023 Tucson, Santa Fe's, and Palisades, fully stocked. And tis the season to save thousands with 0% financing plus no payment for 90 days on many 2023 Hyundais. That's no interest and no payments for 90 days. Tis the season to save at Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso.
600 ESPN El Paso is your source for sports. And get ABC-7 news updates weekdays from 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. 600 ESPN El Paso, a partner with ABC-7 where news comes first.
93.1 Kiss FM, today's best mix. Where Mike and Iris starts your day. Open the 93.1 Kiss FM mobile app.
What does Habitat for Humanity build?
Opportunity, strength, and stability. Home.
Hey everybody, I'm Garth Brooks.
And I'm Trisha Yearwood.
And nothing illustrates the beauty of what we can build together like Habitat for Humanity.
In our work with Habitat, we've seen what's possible.
In your community and around the world right now, neighbors are helping neighbors build masterpieces of their own.
Visit Habitat.org to learn more and get involved today.
When Border Patrol agents hear of migrants crossing into the U.S. and vehicles can't get to that area, they call the Horse Patrol.
Transnational criminal organizations utilize routes that put the lives of these migrants in danger.
Forcing many to run nature's gauntlet alone.
There have been unfortunate deaths.
Making horses critical in the war on human trafficking.
I'm going to take you on the same ride the Border Patrol agents go on searching for those migrants.
Mounted Patrol, Monday at 10, only on ABC-7.
Welcome back. It's been 2 years since a brutal and deadly attack in central El Paso. A woman arriving home from work was gunned down in her garage and killed. That intruder also shot her husband and left him for dead. The gunman eluded capture for almost a year, and evidence from the police indicates this husband and wife were the victims of politically fueled violence. The murder of Georgette Kaufman in this episode of Borderland Crimes.
Georgette Kaufman pulled into her garage the evening of November 14th, 2020. She didn't even have time to turn off the ignition before she was shot numerous times and left for dead next to her car. Georgette's husband, Daniel Kaufman, was shot through a wrought iron door. Daniel managed to crawl away, then ran across the street to his neighbor's house to call 911.
Those people are very, very nice people, good neighbors. Very decent people, as all our neighbors are, but it's just a sad day.
Georgette was a lawyer in the Texas Attorney General's office here in El Paso. We were all learning who she was, but no one could explain why this happened.
Who can imagine a person like her, as loved, admired, respected, was going to suffer an event like that?
Judge Marlene Gonzalez worked closely with Kaufman when the two held positions in the El Paso County Attorney's Office in the early 2000s.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Judge Jesus Rodriguez also met Kaufman in the county attorney's office. He said a friend called him the night of the shooting to tell him the awful news.
I called her and I texted her and I didn't receive a response. So that's when I really got worried. And I was really hoping that it just wasn't true.
Nearly a year passed before police arrested a suspect. On September 9th, 2021, 38-year-old Joseph Alvarez was booked into the county jail, charged with murder and aggravated assault. El Paso police detailed in the affidavit how they came to suspect Alvarez for Kaufman's murder. Police wanted to find out who was in the neighborhood at the time of the deadly shooting. Detectives obtained a Google geofence search warrant.
For
all the data relating to phones that were active in and around a certain geographic area. And usually it's a very specific area, like a block or a home.
Police zeroed in on a device near the Kaufman house at the time Georgette and Daniel were shot. Police gained access to a Google account attached to that device. The account belonged to Joseph Alvarez. In a file of sent emails was one to a military intelligence group on November 14th, 2020, the morning Georgette was killed. The email was 22 pages long of Alvarez allegedly explaining his extremist religious beliefs. Police say he identified those who are pro-choice as the Jewish Satanist Party, called Democrats liars, and called for no more Democrat Party officials. Based on the information gathered by El Paso police during their investigation, this was a crime motivated by extreme political views, something El Paso Democratic Congresswoman Veronica Escobar said she often had to address during her campaigns both in 2020 and in 2022.
This is about presenting people as enemies who should be targeted and in some ways potentially harmed.
Alvarez's murder trial was rescheduled from November 4th to March of 2023. In my podcast, you can hear how El Paso police narrowed their search on the suspect, the chilling information police say they found in his digital data, and the path to justice both the prosecution and defense are trying to carve before Alvarez goes before a jury. You can download and subscribe to Borderland Crimes on your favorite podcast platform, or you can listen to it now on kvia.com. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Stephanie Valle, and this has been ABC-7 Extra.
Thank you for watching.